Lawyers in the Ahmed Timol Inquest have asked Judge Billy Mothle to reject initial findings that the anti-apartheid activist committed suicide in the 70s, arguing that it was the security branch police who were responsible for Timol's death. According to the lawyers, policeman Joao Rodrigues' version of events is not to be believed. Rodrigues was the last man to see Timol alive before his death at the John Voster police station. An inquest in 1972 ruled that Timol had jumped to his death from the 10th floor. Advocate Tui Pretorius, on behalf of the state, told the court that the current inquest had finally given detainees a voice. He asked the court to find that detainees at John Voster Square had been assaulted and that Timol had been tortured at the hands of police. Security police previously denied that detainees were assaulted or tortured.
Now, for more on that story, we're now joined by reporter Matlako Kumane, who's been following this story for some time now and covering the inquest for us. Matlako, it's finally come to an end, but it's been quite dramatic at times. Some startling revelations that came through, and even doubts about the entire story. So let's start at how things were wrapped up today. What were the final thoughts that the advocates put through?
The thoughts today that were put through, most especially by Advocate Vani, who spoke on behalf of the Timol family, was that they wanted Joao Rodrigues. Joao Rodrigues was the man that was last seen. Well, he was the last person in the room, 1026 at the John Voster Square with Timol, the guy that maintains that Timol had then jumped to his death on the 10th floor. They wanted him to be prosecuted because they feel that he was not telling the truth. Advocate Vani went at pains to say that the family really, at the beginning of this, just wanted some sort of truth and they wanted closure. They just wanted the truth because it had been a 46-year tale that had been told that Timol had jumped to his death. He was so traumatized by the news of one of his associates being arrested. And today then they said, no, let this man then face the full might of the law. He lied under oath before the court. He did not take the court into his confidence and tell them exactly what it was that had happened those 46 years ago. And also the state was also saying that, and it was a good thing that the state said that they had served the law. They had this inquest had served the purpose of letting the other side speak their part, because the longest cry that detainees had always had was that these type of stories were always told from one side. Detainees never had a voice in inquests or in stories like this where people mysteriously died in detention. So they felt that the inquest was able to give detainees and their families an opportunity to speak of the horrors that they had experienced at the John Voster Square. But they also did speak about Rodrigues' version of events, which were seen to, be highly improbable. There was medical evidence that, he would, like the jumping part was, I think the one that got everybody, was that this man was beaten so bad and he was assaulted so badly that he was either unconscious or going in and out of conscious, but a broken ankle, but he jumped. He somehow managed to jump out of the 10th floor. But the highlight of the day, or rather the funny part of the day, was Rodrigues' lawyer, Advocate Gutsia, who was saying that perhaps he wasn't committing suicide, but he was escaping. I'm thinking, you can't be escaping from the 10th floor. And he also said another issue that they always relied on was, no, it's 46 years ago. Some of these witnesses don't really remember what actually happened. And he also said that the reports that pathologists and other specialists relied on were sketchy. You couldn't really see the information was so old. But I mean, obviously, I do not think that people would put their reputation online to all say the same thing.
So, when we look back at the few weeks that this thing has been running, and you compare Inquest 1 and Inquest 2, dramatically we saw new people and new voices coming through, witnesses from across the road, and suddenly the timeline of this actual event changed. And if it's to be believed that it happened in the morning, it further cements the idea that this thing was covered up by the police remarkably.
Yes, it was. I think that's what the state advocate has said, that this gave detainees and other people an opportunity to actually speak. But also, most importantly, the submission that was made to the judge was that the previous inquest, the magistrate, he had gravely failed in the sense that he couldn't do a very simple thing like an on-local inspection, like a site inspection to the John Voster Square, which wasn't that far away from where the initial inquest was held. Those were the things that were overlooked, and that he had relied on a document that was published in 1972, that communist document that just became so famous at this inquest, that communists were then given this mandate to go and jump or commit suicide rather than give up their comrades. But you then look at when this Nkululeko, this pamphlet was published, and you also look at when Timol had then committed suicide. So those were the things that the judge asked, how was it that the magistrate did not look into such things? And there were small things where the evidence of the then security branch people was just not really adding up. But it would seem that it was an inquest that needed to be done as quick as possible, so that the state can abdicate responsibility.
And they said that basic police work was not carried out. For example, at the time, police should have crossed the road and asked people for witness accounts, which they didn't do, and it was suggested that they didn't want those witness accounts because obviously they were covering up. So what's come out of this is that, these versions, if they are to be disbelieved, then people are liable either for perjury or murder.
Well, definitely, and I think that is the danger of going to a court and not, 46 years later, not being able to tell the truth. Is, first of all, you must be lying, and that is an offense in our law, to be lying before a court. And I think that is where the state and the Timol family's legal counsel had said that this man Rodrigues, because he is literally the only living testimony of what really happened in room 26. If he was even there in the first place, he could be a person who could have then put this to rest. But you also remember there was a former security branch officer that came to testify, Paul Erasmus, who then spoke of time when he was then called in to go and do this countrywide, there's a countrywide project where they had to go and dig up information on Neil Agate to say that he was suicidal and he had committed suicide. But also Erasmus's testimony also spoke to how far the security branch would go, and with the help of authorities financially and otherwise, to cover up such things, to make things like this look normal. And he also said that they had they had a visa to just do how and whatever it is that they pleased to detainees. Detainees were at their mercy, that laws were disregarded at the John Voster Square. Those are the things that we were able to see in this particular inquest. So there's a lot that has happened.
I'm going to hurry along because we've run out of time, but perhaps finally, watching the judge and the way he was cross-examining the advocates, do you get a sense that a compelling case has been made to overturn the first inquest result?
It would seem like that, but when at the end of the day, it is up to the judge to sit down and look at the facts before him and not make an emotional decision, because whatever decision it is that he takes will obviously impact on the lives of people or the legacies even of those that are not alive anymore, those security branch officers, but also of not Erasmus, but rather of Rodrigues, who is still alive. Should he find that there was murder and the truth was not told, this will greatly impact on the future and the life of Joao Rodrigues.
Yeah, but perhaps justice finally coming to the Timol family. Matlako Komane, thank you very much for joining us, and let's hope that we get a verdict quite soon. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Peter.